anything about sound systems, or
Everything's good as long as you keep your mic on.
we can just go ahead?
Right on. We're on. We're live.
Okay. I see all commission members present, as well as the clerk. So we have a quorum, and I now call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Ethics Commission of the Town of Chesapeake Beach. It's March the 20th, and it's
April the 20th.
1 o'clock. Meeting was called and distributed as required. And now, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first agenda item is the approval of the agenda. Is there any objection?
So moved.
Okay, agenda is approved unanimously. Next item, item 4A, is the approval of the minutes of the last meeting, the meeting of March 17th. And again, this has been previously circulated. Any objection to approval of the minutes?
None.
None.
Okay, minutes are approved unanimously. I would like to add that there are two decisions that were made there, which appear in item 4 of the minutes and item 7. And both of these will be revisited later on during the meeting. Item 4B, review of Commission's action regarding a complaint by a member of an HOA. This matter is concluded. There was extensive correspondence with a member who complained about alleged malfeasance on the part of the management of her HOA. We concluded that the matter is outside the jurisdiction of this commission. We communicated this to her. The last action item was at the last meeting. I was directed to write a final response letter to her, which I did, and everybody has seen it. We've received a response to that letter, which basically said, I will give up with you, you're not helpful, but I will pursue other channels and cause other officials. And that was the end of it. So that matter has been concluded. The only new thing is that I informed the mayor of the situation because it involves charges of malfeasance on the part of two members of the council, but that also is beyond the jurisdiction of this commission. Any comments on this? All right. Item C, discuss the implementation of certain past commission proposals to amend the ethics ordinance. There are affected by this agenda item are first the two actions that we took at the last meeting. We passed two resolutions reflected in the minutes under number 4, number 7. Number 4 deals with the blanket prohibition against the employment of children of officials at the water park. I believe we not only have to revisit this decision, I think we have to rescind it. We have since had the benefit of advice from counsel, and there are a number of problems with that decision. First of all, it is probably beyond our authority to make a categorical decision about personnel matters. And a related reason is that this decision is inconsistent with, and in fact in contradiction to a provision in the town code, which council has kindly called to our attention, and in fact given us an extract of the relevant provisions. The code quite clearly permits the employment of relatives, subject to certain rules and conditions. So it's beyond our power to now basically overrule the provision of the town code by enacting this blanket prohibition. And further, this decision, the intent of the decision is actually redundant because, as council has explained to us, there are other existing rules in the ethics ordinance which already accomplish the goal that officials may not participate in decisions where a close relative is employed. And we have this in writing. It is in the exact wording is in I think it's pages. Yeah, it's the pages 3 out of 5 to running over to 4 out of 5 in council's memo of March 22nd, which everybody has received. We can go over the wording if anyone thinks it necessary. As far as I'm concerned, I'm simply willing to accept it. Yes, that's right. And it was really improvident on my part that I even allowed this thing to come to a vote at our last meeting. We have a later agenda item D relating to the same subject, but let me deal with the other pending matters first. We have labored for several months on a provision that contains, that is a part of what is now called a section of employment and financial interest restrictions on. we have previously amended this section, it's 25-23B, to broaden it. The original version, which is still in effect, did not can provide that it provides that it deals with having a financial interest in an entity or an officer position that did not deal with being employed by such an entity. We added that, and Council has now proposed a, I hope, final refinement of the language. It's 25-23B 2. No, 3. B3. And it refers to an entity that requests or receives a grant or other funding from the town. Council added the words after funding, including budgetary funding. I propose that we make a final amendment to 25-23, including that language.
Agreed, yes.
Agreed.
Okay, very good. We also have, this is a tail end of this agenda item, but it's a big tail. We have a large number of older proposals to the council for a whole slew of amendments to the ordinance, which was worked out and must have been an enormous amount of work during the previous term of office. Since then, at the end of last year, around November or so, the previous chairman had attended a work session with the town council in which he presented this catalog of proposed changes. Council declined to take any action, took it under advisement, and the chairman was, we were informed that, quote, we know you are working on further changes. We're not going to do anything until you come to us with a completed package, end quote. And there have been no further development in that with respect to these amendments. Now we have to pick up the ball, it seems to me, and go to the council, present that catalog augmented by subsequent change proposals. But in order to do that, it seems to me that the present council has to take ownership of it. Of the three of us, Ingrid is the only veteran who was actually involved in developing this catalog of changes. When I came in last summer, it was basically already done. I remember reading it. In fact, I even marked up my copy of the ordinance, but I didn't pay close attention to it, simply accepted it as a fait accompli. Now, I think what the commission as currently constituted should do is look at this document, there are two, the proposed amendments themselves, plus an explanatory memorandum, which was created, I think, probably by Phil Keat, and certainly in collaboration with legal counsel, I would think, Fred. Is that correct?
Probably reviewed it, but it was primarily Phil's work
Okay.
in terms of the explanatory.
Oh, okay, that's Fred. That was yeah. Okay. So what I have to do now is ask everybody to study those two pieces of paper. I didn't bring them with me, but I will pull them out with Sharon's help if necessary, and give it to my colleagues here. And I ask that you go through it and decide, yes, are we still in agreement, or is there something redundant, unnecessary, or otherwise objectionable? The objective of this enterprise would be, when I go to the council and sit down there someplace facing them all, that I can say, yes, the Ethics Commission, as it is now constituted, is behind that. That is our proposal to the council, and I'm not in favor of reopening discussions about various items. However, as long as the council hasn't acted, we are certainly free to change our minds. But that's not what I'm advocating.
I mean, for purposes of clarification, can I go back a little bit to the discussion about the revision that I had suggested?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. You had referenced the fact that I had made a suggestion for 25-23B. I had also, as part of that proposal, made a suggestion for revision of 25-23A as well.
Find it. Yeah, I'm looking at your memo of the 22nd,
Right.
right, and under 25-23, A, because there are changes there, and I thought they were already previously agreed on. Am I?
No, I think my suggestion is a little bit different than what was agreed to. Not in terms of substance, but in terms of terminology.
Yeah. All right. The changes in 25-23A read that person may not have be employed by or have a financial interest in any entity where that, now comes a change where that employment or interest would impair, strike his or her, the covered person's impartiality. That's a language change, and I didn't realize that was new. It's certainly better. It avoids the awkward, his or her, or its, or whatever else the case might be.
I think that this was more, in my mind, more clarifying than substantive.
It is, yeah. I don't think it changes the meaning. And subparagraph 3 refers to any entity that requests or receives a grant or other funding. And I think your new word is including budgetary funding from the town.
No, number 3 is new in its entirety.
Okay.
And also at the first line of B, I added in, every person may not be employed by, be an officer or director of, or have financial interest in. And this is something the commission has discussed a number of times.
Yeah, I don't see that here. I've no objection to that. Oh. Officer director. Yes, that is also not anything truly new substantively. It ties in with the employed by, and an office director may or may not be technically employed.
Correct.
So this would avoid, any kind of quibbles that a clever lawyer might come up with. Okay.
I would recommend to the commission that it be clear that the commission is endorsing my recommendation with respect to 25-23 in its entirety,
A and B.
A and B.
All right. I so move, and you have the piece of paper.
Not with me right now,
No,
but
No, but I will send it to you.
I'm sure I have it somewhere in the email traffic and the folder at home.
Your emails must be bulging.
Yeah, I get a fair number every day.
I saw to that myself. All right. I think that takes care of that.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Sharon, when you send the latest and greatest version of the revisions and the explanatory memo to the members of the commission, will you send to me as well? Just so I know we're all talking about the same thing, looking at the same thing. I
Okay.
have so much on my computer.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm looking at the right version.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think this takes care of item C of the agenda. Item D is related. And we, based on council's advice, I think we must rescind the resolution we passed at the last meeting about a prohibition of students working at the water park. And the question is, do we have to do anything else? It seems to me, I find council's reasoning that he explained in this March 22nd memo quite persuasive. Seems my predecessor was not fully convinced and therefore advocated additional language changes, clarifications. But I don't think that is necessary. There are some other things that I think we should discuss, and not necessarily now. The relevant prohibition or restriction on participation by officials refers to may not participate, quote, in any manner, end quote, that affecting a particular subject matter. And the hypothetical example we've been bandying about for the past several months, talking about this water park situation, it was always, I think, it generally assumed that since the council votes on the budget for the water park, that if somebody has a kid working there, that he could not participate but must recuse himself or herself. Now, there is a wide gap between approving the budget and making hiring decisions. And to make matters worse, there's also a time gap. At the time when the budget is voted on, there is no employment of anybody at the water park because it's closed. And at the time when it's open, the council doesn't make any decisions about the water park except in unforeseen circumstances. The manager of the water park comes and said, one of our pumps is failing. Public Works is fixing it with twine and duct tape. But we have to get a new, don't laugh at duct tape.
I love it.
Yeah. I need a additional budgetary allocation to buy this new pipe, this new pump. So the council has to approve that. Now, does this now mean that a council member whose kid works there as a lifeguard or as a ticket taker or whatever could not vote on this special budgetary allocation?
Of course not.
It would seem, it would seem quite extraordinary. And but that is the situation that we always envisioned, and it seemed to me that somehow we should provide a narrower focus on the matter that a person would or would not be allowed to take action on. We don't have to amend the ordinance itself to do that, because we are allowed to offer opinions, interpretations, and that might be the way to do that. And this any matter comes up in other contexts within the ordinance, and I have it sort of as a task set for myself to read through that thick piece of paper and say, what does this actually mean? Participate in decisions, any matter. It's easy to write this sentence, and it's easier still to read it and say, yeah, that's right. But if you get into the the details on the ground, it often is not so easy. Another question is, how do we know that everybody knows it? Of course, we can sit here and say, well, every council member, every official is presumed to read the ethics ordinance and abide by it. And but it is not at all certain that everybody does that. and that everybody remembers at least those passages that are relevant to that particular official. Right now, I don't know how to do that. Hypothetically, if we do legislate or get the council to legislate that relatives of officials or certain relatives may not be employed. How do we then write a letter to everybody or a memorandum and say, please be aware that you cannot do this or cannot do that? And I don't know whether that's practical or that we should simply rely on the due diligence of all officials that they actually study this ordinance. And keep in mind that the whole children/water park subject came up because we found in one of the disclosure statements that somebody, and I cannot remember whose kid, was in fact working at the water park during the summer. And but we found this, after the fact. So there was nothing in particular to be done. Except to say, oh, that official didn't participate in the decision if it's merely by voting on the budget. But then there are officials who would be involved. Obviously, the water parks manager, or I don't know what the exact title is. Also involved will probably the treasurer. Make sure that the budget isn't exceeded by excessively high compensation. Maybe the town clerk in some way. Maybe the town administrator. It depends how the decision process works within the bowels of the town. Is it a single person's? Is it hiring a single person's sovereign decision, or does it have to be coordinated with someone else? We should also take a look, I think, at the recusal rules. I haven't done yet, but if you say may not participate, then what does this, does everybody have to police itself and say, no, I will not vote? Can somebody else, thinking, for example, of the council, say, no, you have a conflict here, you cannot vote? Is this how it works? For myself, I would really get clarity on it. And a final question, which also was raised in council's memorandum: what are the sanctions if somebody just doesn't do it? Councilman votes on the budget, has a kid working there, illegal, but he votes. Vote is recorded. That vote may or may not be decisive.
If I may, respond to that, then I think it's up to somebody, either the commission on its own initiative or some member of the public, to file a complaint with the commission alleging a violation of the ethics.
Yes, but how would a member of the public know? How would any of us know? Suppose J. Barry Harris hires uh, his cousin to drive a truck for the town. Under the town code, that's not prohibited. But hypothetically, we are assuming for purpose of discussion that we do have an outright prohibition. You have no idea whom he hired. And if it's, oh, this is our new truck driver, Joe Blow, how do we know that's a first cousin or grandfather of Jay's? And I don't know how to police that actively. In my latest example, Jay should have absorbed the ethics ordinance, but he may have read it years ago, forgot half of it, because it certainly is not, it doesn't come up in the day-to-day work like somebody who engages in contracting and so on. Yeah, you know what the town's contracting rules are, but prohibition or against hiring relatives, it does not have the same presence in people's minds. I think I have spoken enough. Well,
Sage words.
well, I'm not so sure. But there are some things I think we should focus on in the future. And I'll be here for 3 years. You'll be here for 5, and so there is time to do that. And at least members of this commission should have the whole content in our heads. Can we move on to the next agenda item? E, discuss the effect of the ordinance, that is our ordinance of Town Code Chapter 50, Article 10, regarding the employment of relatives. And everybody has seen wording of that. It's quite lengthy. It quite clearly contains no prohibition. We have already taken account of that earlier. And is there anything else to say about the effect of Code Chapter 10, Article 10, Chapter 50, Article 10? Council?
Yeah. The only observation I would make is that if the commission as a whole believes that the practice of hiring relatives or hiring relative to work at the water park is something that should be addressed, it should be addressed by the council and not this group.
Yeah.
And it will be up to this group to make a recommendation to the mayor and council. Fine. If the group feels that it's been discussed enough and there's no need to go any farther with it, then the matter's over.
Well, yes, I mean, we cannot substitute our policy judgment for that of the town council. But the question again is, how will we find out? Should we go to, I suppose, somebody in this building, Holly Wall, will probably know that somebody has been hired. Whoever administers payroll would necessarily have to know that. Should we require that we be notified and then can put the question, is this perchance a son, daughter, father, mother, grandfather of an covered official?
Or it seems like during that hiring process,
Part of the
question gets asked.
application.
just
Yeah.
as part of the application, are you related in any way, shape, or form to any elected or appointed official here in town?
We would give that applicant laundry list of the people. I think covered officials.
Well, if they're related to them, they should know they're probably here, so.
Job applicant would have no clue who is on the election or who is on planning and zoning.
But more than likely, they would be referred by their relative and say, hey, Joe Blow, there's an opening here at Public Works. It's
Possibly.
This would
possibly.
probably the case, and in fact, the Chapter 50, Article 10 expressly contemplates that kind of situation.
I would observe, though, that this Article 10 goes back many, many years. Probably 20 years. And there may be policy changes that are desirable at this point in time, considerations that were in their 10. So all I'm saying is if this commission thinks that there is ground from an ethics standpoint to the council to revisit that, then the commission could, say to the council, here, we perceive there's a potential ethics issue, not for the commission to address under the ethics ordinance, but potentially could be an issue council should address as part of a review of Chapter 50, Article 10, or some other provision of town code. So you're right, a comment you made earlier that really policy judgments and questions are for the council and not necessarily for this group, but there's nothing wrong with this group sitting where you do as responsible for ethics in the town for making policy recommendations for consideration by the mayor and council. Again, I'm not advocating it. I'm just.
That was going to be my
giving
question
you-
to you, Fred.
Yeah.
Is that your advice? Is that advisable to do that, to make recommendations to the council on policy matters?
Yes, absolutely.
What we could propose, and that's easy, that and the proposal that we could make to Ollie Wall, dealing with copy to the mayor, that in hiring somebody, make sure that the question is asked, or we get a questionnaire to fill out. Is any of your relatives working for the town? If so, identify. And I think that's easy, and we can do that as a recommendation. Then Holly, why we are saying that that it might eventually feed over into an ethical problem over which we have jurisdiction. That I will relate this to Holly. Any additional matters for discussion? Well, by the end of this month, we should have the disclosure statements in hand.
How many do you think we've gotten so far, Sharon? That's not too bad.
How many?
Maybe 10, 12.
Because they just went out, was it last Friday?
Um,
You're right, Friday.
Friday.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Well, right now, all this is in Holly's capable hands. I think the practice has been that every commission member reviews the whole stack of statements. At least that's what we did last year. I think the first time I was here. It's actually less work than it would appear, because in most cases, the answers is no, 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 no. And it's only very few where there is a substantive disclosure, and very, very few where we see a problem.
Main problem being unanswered questions and blanks, more so than the
Well,
yeses.
Our form shows some slight improvement over the previous form.
Yep,
So the number of unanswered questions,
hopefully
which
will diminish.
invariably are no, 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 no. But at least, that number should be smaller than it was last time around.
Hopefully.
And, no further action is necessary except to acknowledge everybody's understanding. Yes, everybody has to review the whole stack of disclosure statements.
Are they due, I guess, the 29th, since that's the last workday of the month, Sharon?
Well, we said.
Or
the
do we give
30th.
them any extra?
No, we said the 30th, so.
30th, okay.
I mean, even if they sent me an email, or that's normally how they're coming out is through, they submit
I was
it
going to ask you
online.
that too. Are they using the online submission or are?
Yes.
Okay.
yes,
Good,
they
that's
are.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fast.
I did get yours.
That was the first one, probably 10 minutes after it came in.
Knock that out.
Yeah, I got Greg's too. Oh,
Mine was not,
yours too.
yes, you do.
Peter.
No other matters anybody wants to bring up? Okay, then schedule the next regular meeting. And, before we throw out dates and numbers, I have to announce that I will be away the first 3 weeks of May. Last day here would be the 29th, and I should be back if all goes well on the 20th.
And I will be away from the 19th through the 28th.
Of May.
So it looks like June.
Looks like that, yeah. And also, I will be in the African jungle where telecommunications are uncertain.
Sketchy at best.
Going to the yeah, it's,
Southern Hemisphere,
but I have my malaria pills.
Will be,
Hmm.
won't be too cold. It'll be cool.
Well, it's a wet area. There are several rivers, and it's shortly after the rains.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll get stung by the buggers.
So Sharon, given all of that, will you be emailing the commission the disclosures so that in the meantime, they can review those?
Oh, yeah, once I
Okay.
get, and the closer it gets, I'll send a reminder to those that I
Right.
don't have. And then I'll put it all in a PDF and send it out for everybody to be able to review.
Let me,
So what do we do about the date for the next meeting?
June?
I think we have to move to June.
Anybody have a calendar?
first, the second,
How about the first, that first Wednesday there? Seem to like Wednesdays.
Works.
Early June, because late June I'll be again. June.
good for you.
But June 1st then, Peter.
June 1st.
June 1st?
No, no, no.
Oh.
4th of July.
That's when you'll be away.
That's when I'll be away.
How about June 1st is the possible next meeting date? That seems to work for everybody.
1 o'clock? 1 o'clock?
I would say.
Yeah. What weekday is that?
That's a Wednesday.
All right. Final agenda item H, comments by commissioners and members of the public. My own comment is the hummingbirds are back. I saw
Oh,
one
wow.
yesterday.
My comment is that spring is coming this weekend. Yes.
Ospreys have been busy building nests. I see them flying with their sticks and whatever else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they have a grand old time. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
Or solemn
To me.
terminology is we stand adjourned, but we don't stand, we sit.
It was nice actually to have a flag